Picture an adoption center for babies. Now picture some of those babies being killed because there's too many of them. This is what dogs have to go through because people can't treat them well or can't take care of them anymore for whatever reason. Some dogs will spend the rest of their lives in a cage or might even be killed because people don't adopt shelter dogs. Now, before I was born, my parents got 2 dogs from a shelter. One of those dogs had just come in the shelter, and one of the dogs was going to die the very next day. And that dog that was going to die the next day actually stayed with me my entire life until I was 12. So, dogs that are purebred are more prone to having genetic disorders than mixed breed dogs. Disorders such as hip dysplasia, heart, skin, and eye diseases, bone and joint disorders, and epilepsy are only some of the problems that purebred dogs are more affected by than mixed breed dogs. There is a limited gene pool for purebred dogs, and recessive traits will become present because the dominant traits that flush out the unhealthy traits aren't there. This is shown by the excerpt. As many of these gene pools are limited or closed, the risk of genetic defects rises significantly with each successive coupling, by PetMD. So when a dog is crossbred, the dominant traits cause the recessive traits to not be present. A study by Bellamori used medical records from the veterinary clinic at UC Davis for more than 27,000 dogs and compared the incidence of 24 genetic disorders in mixed versus purebred dogs. So purebred dogs have a higher chance of having 10 of the 24 genetic disorders mentioned in the study. And the results of that study were that 10 genetic disorders were significantly greater in purebred dogs, and only one disorder, ruptured cranial cruciate ligament, was greater in mixed breed dogs. For the rest of the disorders examined, they found no difference in incidence between mixed breed and purebred dogs. So these results show that even though some disorders found genetically in both types of dogs have no difference in whether they get them or not by breeding, more purebred dogs are vulnerable to getting 10 out of the 24 specific genetic disorders. Overall, it's smarter to get a crossbred dog because they are less likely to have genetic disorders than is a purebred dog. And finally, people who don't really know about shelter dogs usually think that they're in the shelter because there's something wrong with them, but usually people give up their dogs to shelters because they either can't afford them anymore or are forced to move to a place where they are no longer able to have a dog, and that goes by Caesar's way. People also think that a dog will have, mental problems or something because they could have gone through a traumatic event and you don't know what has happened to them before. And although this may be true in some cases, it doesn't mean that they won't change if they are put in a loving environment. And I know this because my parents got 2 dogs at a shelter, and recently, and I have an Australian Shepherd mixed breed dog, Lucy, and so we got her from a shelter, and the first few days she was with us in our house, she was kind of scared to go up to us, and we would kneel down and she would back away, but after a few days she figured out that it was okay and it was safe, and she's now one of the most loving dogs I've ever had.